this video, I'm going to break down our complete setup that allows us to send over 100,000 emails per month. What I will cover is where we purchase our email accounts from, our email account setup and warming settings, the sending settings that we use for optimal health, and how to identify burn clusters so that you can replace them quickly and easily. And by the end of this video, you'll know the exact setup you need to be able to run high volume email campaigns without having deliverability issues. So the first thing that I want to talk about is where we purchase our email accounts from. You can buy email accounts from a range of different places, so I'm just going to be transparent about exactly how we do it. You can go and buy them and set them up one at a time through Google or Microsoft, and this is where we started, and it's where a lot of people would start. I probably wouldn't recommend this is where you start, because at any kind of scale, if this is just going to become an issue, you're just going to spend way too much time doing this. Even if you have a VA doing it full time, it's going to spend a lot of time. So the easiest way, if you're just getting started, is purchasing through SmartLead or Instantly. I'll just show you what that would look like. So if you're in SmartLead, for example, and you went to email accounts on the left, and I'll talk more about SmartLead later, you can click Smart Senders, and essentially you can buy through some of these providers. So these providers are the pretty common ones. You've got Zapmail, Another Inbox, and MailRef. So we use Zapmail and MailRef. We don't use this one. No particular reason. So that's a really easy way to do it, but you can tell it's a little bit more expensive. So you're paying a bit of a premium, but you're paying that premium just because it's easier. Now you don't need to create an account with any of these other providers if you just want to keep the amount of software you're using down, essentially. What we do for the most part is purchase through resellers, and we purchase through resellers because for the most part we're using Google accounts, and we're using Google accounts because for the most part we're emailing like small to medium-sized businesses, and they tend to have Gmail accounts. Typically, if you're starting a small to medium-sized business, you're going to set up like a G Suite or a Google Workspace. If you've got like an enterprise level business, then Microsoft's probably done a good job at selling you their products, and so you're probably using Outlook. So that's why we use Google, and I just want to put a warning here: do your own due diligence beforehand. I always try and have a call with the founder beforehand. It's a little tricky because like even us who has thousands of email accounts, I don't know the exact questions to be asking them to like verify if they're a fraud or not, but at least I talk to them so that I know that, hey, look, if I have problems, like I know who I'm going to be talking to try and resolve them if they're like major problems. And also, I just do ones which have pretty good reputations in the space. So this is our current providers, and this might change. So I'm not recommending, I'm just being transparent. So we use cheap inboxes, and we have them at an even slightly cheaper price than this because we have over 2,000 plus inboxes, and we've been working with them since before they had a website. So I had no issues with cheap inboxes. That's why we're still using them. InboxKit, relatively new to the space. We are just trying them out at the moment. So again, no recommendations here. I'm just telling you who we're using. And then finally, Zapmail, which is very highly recommended because you can buy them through the SmartLead app. We've had a few little issues with Zapmail, but I don't know if that was within their control or not. There's going to be issues wherever you go eventually. So that's just part of the game, but this is where we purchase them. And then typically on Zapmail and on InboxKit, we also purchase domains through them. But for cheap inboxes, we go and buy our domains, and we buy our domains through either like Namecheap or GoDaddy or Porkbun. As a note, most of the big players in the space wait for Porkbun sales to happen, and then they go and buy a whole bunch of generic domains on Porkbun so they can get it at discounts, because at scale, domains are the most difficult thing to solve at scale, because GoDaddy doesn't really give you much of a discount price if you're buying 10,000 of them. Not that you'd ever buy 10,000 domains, it's a lot of domains. We typically just buy through the platforms. Why? Because it's easy, and we're trying to do things easily. The other option, which we're looking to more and more, is through SMTP providers. So instead of using Google or Microsoft, you can use a different SMTP provider, and this just stands for Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. Right, so these are typically built for the purpose of cold email, and that comes with advantages and disadvantages. And they all have slightly things differently that they say they're going to benefit you, such as, we've got like a personal server, so, you're not going to be on there with any bad actors. So if somebody else does something bad, it's not going to affect you, or they're going to be like, we're on rotating servers because that's just how it works, and that's, more realistic. Honestly, I just look at the reputation, and we're currently using these two. So we use MailReef. They've been around for quite a while. And we're also using Hypertide. And we're mostly looking to use Hypertide just because of the scale that we're starting to get with what we're doing. And we've heard good things from other people in the space about Hypertide. I would probably recommend starting with resellers and testing SMTP providers as you look to scale. So I think if you're looking to get into it, I would probably start here or at resellers. And then when you start to look to scale, I would look at this sort of approach. That's probably what I would recommend, but like I said, you can do whatever you like. If you are a B2B company owner or an agency and you'd rather skip this process and just have leads delivered straight to you, there should be a link below this video where you can book in a call to chat with us and see if what we do could help you out. Email setup and warming settings. So in order to send emails through these email accounts, you're going to need a sequencer. And this is what it sort of means. So you're going to go and you're going to buy some domains. Let's just say you set it up manually. You're going to go to probably something like GoDaddy. You're going to buy a domain, and then you're going to go to something like Google Workspace, and you're going to buy some email accounts and then put them attached into that domain. Okay. Now, if you wanted to send out manually, you'd have to log into each of those email accounts and send out emails, and then log into each of their inboxes and reply to emails, and it'd be a mess, right? So instead, what you do is you attach those to a sequencer, and SmartLead and Instantly are the two leading sequencers essentially at the moment for cold outbound. Okay, and just to let you know, this is what they look like. So this is SmartLead, and this is Instantly. We've used both of them. We use SmartLead because at the time we wanted to use more of the API tools available, and at the time SmartLead had more API tools. I'm not sure on that API situation Instantly. At the moment, I assume they're doing something there. So you want some sort of sequencer to attach these. The sequencer, especially as you're getting started, just use the warming pools that they have, okay? And then the sequencer is going to do the sending, and then it's going to do the receiving. So for example, in SmartLead, if I go to SmartLead, it's going to send out all these emails for all these campaigns, and then you're going to get all the replies coming in as well. You want to warm your accounts for a minimum of 2 weeks, okay? There's some people out there that say you don't need to do warming. That's cool. You can try not doing warming. We've gotten better results from warming. We've also tried using other warming pools. We've gotten the same results as just using the SmartLead warming pool. So you can do, there's lots of stuff out there, but that's essentially our experience. Just use the warming settings that are recommended by your SMTP provider or reseller. They will tell you what warming settings to use. Just use those warming settings, and you're not going to turn those warming settings off once you go live. You're just going to run it for 2 weeks before going live. Okay. So what are the sending settings for optimal health? How do we ensure that our inboxes last the longest? Okay. So this right here is the crux of email deliverability, and people don't really talk about it either because it's just so obvious that people don't talk about it, or because it's kind of vague and hard to do. So super duper important thing to understand. The only thing that really matters is if your email is good. And if your email is good, what that means is the people you're emailing find the email that you sent them valuable. They like the email you sent them. They didn't dislike the email that you sent them. They weren't neutral on the email you sent them. They liked the email you sent them. If they liked the email you sent them, none of these sending settings really matter. Okay, so the optimal sending settings just lengthen the lifespan of an account sending an average or bad email. That's all you're really trying to do. It's like the saying, like, you can't outrun a bad diet or something. It's like the crux of what's going on is the email good? If the email is good, you could send 200 emails a day per inbox right? Because everyone likes the email. It's when the email is bad or average that you can't do that, and you keep everything low. So you want to have optimal health, because it's really hard to write an email that people on your list find valuable. Okay, so that is why you do it this way. If everyone responds to the email positively, you're not burning your accounts regardless of the settings. And as everyone marks your spam, you're going to burn the accounts in one day regardless of the settings. If your email is really bad, the settings also just don't matter, because people are going to mark it in spam, and that's the number one indicator in Google or Microsoft eyes if the email is spam, is if someone marks it as spam. Okay, because that is literally what spam is. So email volume, keep your warm up on as you start sending. The lower the better. We don't send plain text, so if you are not sending links, send it in plain text, and this will be even better. We don't do that because we send a video in the second email. So we keep it to 6 new leads a day per Google inbox, which is really low, typically. So that's 12 emails total, because we send a 2-step sequence. For our SMTP providers, we just follow the requirements. For example, Hypertide is 2 per day per inbox. Okay. Email lists. A big part of if the email is good is if the people you are emailing find the email valuable. If you've got something super valuable for accountants and you send it to a dentist, it's spam. It doesn't matter how good the offer is for accountants. So you need to make sure that the people on your lead list are the people that are going to find the emails valuable. Otherwise, they'll mark it as spam and your email accounts will ban. So verify your leads. Essentially, you want to verify not only that the email address is a good email address, but that the company is a good fit for who you're emailing. Because if you just do like an Apollo scrape, there's going to be some on the margins that actually aren't really in your ICP. If you just do a Google Maps scrape, again, there's going to be some in the margins that really aren't in your ICP, and you want to make sure they're filtered out, because they're going to mark it as spam. Okay, I have a full Clay video showing how we do this. There should be a link somewhere around here that you can have a watch of that. So email copy, I'm just going to keep it real simple. Avoid obvious spam words, free and guarantee, etc. We haven't been fantastic at this, but we're getting better at it, because I'm starting to notice it makes a difference. Shocker. You want variation. You can just add variations, meaning that when you're going in here and creating a campaign, I'll just see if I can pick one that has some sort of variation. You can just add variation here on the side, and that will add variation. You can provide relevant personalization, typically through AI. So you could say, hey, I noticed that you guys, AI, was going to add variation, and you reduce spin tax. And like I said, AI from variation. And we do the below the signature hack. What that means is that if I go to one of these campaigns, you'll see that underneath the email signature, we've spin taxed a whole lot of quotes, and I got that from Nick Abraham, so shout out to him. So you'll see that below this in the email copy, it is just a whole lot of quotes that have been spin taxed. So it's going to pick a random one of them each time, or I might cycle through them, I'm not exactly sure. And so each email is going to have some slightly more variation in it, because we've added this to the email signature. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about how to identify and swap out burned accounts. What are you looking for when you're looking across your email accounts to identify when we need new ones? So there's no great way to do this just off the bat. We've tried all the ways I'm going to talk about. Maybe there's other ways out there. Everyone's kind of got their own little way of doing it that makes them feel safe and secure. You don't really know, because Google and Microsoft don't want spammers to know that their email's going to spam. It kind of defeats the purpose, because then they'll be able to easily figure out why it's going to spam and then solve for that, and they'll just be a complete game of cat and mouse. So they have a better advantage if they don't tell you that it's going to spam. Because of this, identifying if the account is burnt is more of like an educated guess, and there's typically 3 ways people do this. So 1, you can check your warm-up score. So for example, if you go into email accounts, and you can do this if you're using like a warm-up tool like Warmy, or if you're using Smart Leader instantly. So I'm going to put some which have some lower warm-up reputation in here. So these accounts with lower reputation are having issues, and I'm aware that they're having issues. But this is one way to tell, essentially, if they're having issues. These are all actually through Zapmail, which had some sort of breach, which is causing these issues, which they're going to replace all the domains for us for. So that's an easy way to tell if there's been issues, because essentially what it's saying is your warm-ups, e.g. when you're sending within this pool, they're going to spam, which means it's very likely that your actual genuine emails are also going to spam. So that's what's happening here. So that's a very easy way to do it, but you'll find that there'll be heaps of accounts which will get 100% on the warm-ups, but your emails to prospects is going to spam. So it's like a very high level way of doing it. You can do inbox placement tests, and they can be helpful. And Glock Apps is like a good example. I believe they're not very cheap. There also is internal, and there's Smart Delivery internally and Smartly, which does a similar thing, inbox placement tests. What we found is that they're very difficult. Well, they were when we were trying to automate them at scale across everything and then like remove burnt clusters. I'm sure people are figuring out a better way of doing that. Essentially what it's doing is you're sending an email to, let's say, like 100 different mailboxes on different, some are Google, some are Microsoft, some are Hotmail, some are whatever. And then it's going to return to you which inboxes landed in primary, which ones landed in spam. There's a few things to note here. One, you'll get better results if the inbox placement test you do is using the actual email copy that you're sending, because then you're going to be able to see. So it can be a good way of doing that. We're just finding that it was very difficult to do at scale. How we do it, we check for positive replies or replies, and we mostly just do replies. So what that means is, like, let's say we have a client and that client's going after 2 niches, and those niches are going after 2 different angles. So essentially what we're saying here is that this is a campaign with 6 email accounts, and I've showed you down here. We've got like the domain. So this will be a campaign in Smart Lead. We've got 2 domains attached, 6 email accounts attached. And what you can see here is that this cluster and this cluster are exactly the same. They're going after the same niche with the same angle. And so we know that if one of these starts to underperform, then it's probably a deliverability issue because everything else is held constant. And so we use that as our kind of yardstick to be able to both run split tests and be able to identify if an account is burnt. And so you can see in here as an example, this one's got, a bunch of different campaigns, clusters, and these ones, let's say this one, cluster 2, is getting way worse results. Okay, so it's probably burnt. So that is typically how we do it, is we just do it on a positive reply basis. And if it's getting less than 91%, you're almost definitely having deliverability issues, because even if your email copy is bad, you're still going to get at least 1% of people saying that, like, they're not interested or something like that. So that is how we replace burnt clusters. Setting this all up is only one stage of running a successful cold email campaign. The next step is not only finding a high volume of leads, but finding a high volume and quality of leads so that you can put them into these campaigns to yield these results. If you want to see how we do this, there should be a video on screen which you can click and watch our exact process for finding high quality and high volume leads. And if you'd rather skip this process and just get high quality leads delivered straight to you, there should be a link to somebody in my team's calendar below this video. See you in the next one. Peace.